Hello, Central family. Hey, a quick word for you today. We're going to be looking at the story of Jonah, one of my favorite stories. The dude gets eaten by a fish and then gets vomited. That's pretty funny. Always love reading that. But there's some other nuggets of truth in this story that I absolutely love. But there's actually something that I learned last night as I was studying through the Hebrew. That's actually something that I'm learning right now. I'm loving that. But I want to share that real quick with you. And I think it's really cool. But it's this. When you look at Jonah, his name in the Hebrew is Yonah. Instead of the J, it's a Y basically. But it's what Jonah means is dove, a dove like a bird. And so I found that kind of interesting. But if you look at the symbolic aspect of that in the Old Testament, a dove is talked about in several different ways. One way is to be scattered. It's called even erratic and silly and senseless, kind of about their flight pattern, and they're going all over the place. And so we kind of see that with Jonah in the earlier part of his story, right? But also, Jonah is a dove means peace or messenger or something along those lines. And so you see the different aspects of Jonah's name literally kind of plays into what he did. And when you look at the story, I'm going to read the two engagements that Jonah had with when God told him what he wanted him to do, was to go to Nineveh. The first time God called Jonah, said, I want you to go to Nineveh. And it says, verse 3, but Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. Try to run away from God. That's kind of funny. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish away from the presence of the Lord. That kind of, you see the dove aspect in that, and he was kind of senseless. He was going crazy. God asked him to do something, and he wouldn't, just basically nuts, and tried to run away from God, which is kind of a funny thing. But you go into chapter 3, and obviously in between chapter 1 and chapter 3, he gets swallowed by a fish. He gets thrown off, and then the fish comes up, swallows him up, and he's in the guts, and then he gets puked up. That's kind of funny. But then you get into chapter 3, and there's a change of heart. But God literally uses almost the same words to Jonah in what he wants him to do. And so in chapter 3, it says, then the word of the Lord came to Jonah the second time, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it the message that I tell you. So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. You see the other aspect of Jonah, the other part of the dove, where he has peace. Before he didn't have peace, he was erratic, right? He was going all over the place. He was crazy. He was trying to run away from God, which is impossible. But then you see in this part, with the change of heart and circumstances that took place, he went. He went and with his peace, with the confidence that he had in the Lord, which God is the one that we're supposed to get our peace from. And so he went with the Lord to do this thing. In Nineveh, they're enemies, basically the Israelites' enemies. But he went, and then these people repented, and they got peace. The peace that he had, then they got because he was faithful to share what God wanted him to share. And so here's my question today, and this is kind of something that I've been contemplating, is what kind of Jonah am I right now? Am I one that's scattered and I'm going all over the place, and maybe God is asking me to do some hard things, crazy things? Am I the dove that is erratic and going all over the place? Or am I the dove that has peace, and I'm going to be a messenger of the things that God is sharing with me, and that God wants me to share with other people? What kind of Jonah am I going to be in this time? Maybe an encouragement, maybe a challenge for you today.